Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash, for giving us the understanding of the Holy Bible through their men, the true men of the Lord, that being the apostles and the bishops of Great Millstone. These are the men that are worthy of double honors in the time that we're living in, which we're living at the very end of this world. World in the sense of the Greek word eon, which means an age, a time period. All right, so we're living at the end of Esau's world, Esau being the so-called white man. Hence, 2 Ezra 6 and verse 9, Esau is the end of the world. And Jacob, referring to our people, the Israelites, Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So with that being said, Yahweh Bashma Washai Bahashem, Rakak Wadash Brakatham, to the 144,000 servants as well as the remaining elect of Israel. So I've got some news here for you from fortune.com. And as you can see here in the headings, it's concerning the European Union. All right. It says the EU just issued a dire warning to its 450 million citizens: stockpile supplies and prepare for disaster. And this is a warning that's going out from the Preparedness and Crisis Management Commissioner, who goes by the name of Hadja Labib. Okay, this is the person that you see here in the photo. It says today's threats facing Europe are more complex than ever, and they are all interconnected. So right now there's a lot happening out there in Europe, and according to the news, they're expecting for things to escalate. They're expecting disaster. And, this disaster that they're talking about could very well be, the Black Swan event that turns the whole wide world upside down, allowing for the wicked elite to, to fully establish their new world order and usher in the mark of the beast pursuant to Revelation 13 and 16, all right, which the mark of the beast is the microchip implant that us here at Great Millstone is warning you about, okay, warning you Israelites about, especially out here in America, because America is the main country, the main land that our Lord is going to focus on in terms of destruction. Okay, when World War III actually heats up to a nuclear war. And, speaking of war, we're living in a time of war. We're not living in a time of peace. We're living in a time of war. Okay, according to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3 and verse 8. And pretty much, what's happening between Ukraine and Russia, that's going to escalate. Okay, which is why the European Union, is sending out this warning, because it's looking like, Great Britain and France are going to get involved in this skirmish between Russia and the Ukraine. So what's happening biblically is the build-up of World War III, also known as the third woe in the Bible, Revelation 11 and verse 14. You've also got Revelation 9 and verse 12. Revelation 11 and verse 14 tells us that the second woe is past, which we know the second woe is talking about World War II. All right. That's past already. That took place between the years of 1939 to 1945. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. The third woe being World War III, which we know is going to be, or I should say, it's going to escalate to a nuclear war. Okay, and that's pursuant to scriptures like Isaiah 9 verse 5, Malachi 4 verse 1. The day that cometh shall burn as an oven. Again, Isaiah 9 verse 5 speaks about how, this battle, or the up and coming battle, as in World War III, the battle of Armageddon, shall be fought with burning and fuel of fire. Okay, and that burning and fuel of fire is going to come by way of the nuclear missiles, the ICBMs. you know. And the main target on that day, the day of our Lord, the day of Yahweh Shai, Judgment Day, the main target is going to be America in that day, okay? Which America is going to be turned into a lake of fire by way of those nuclear missiles. Now, Yahweh Shai also gave us a heads up concerning his return and the end of this man's system. When you go to Matthew 24, Yahweh Shai said that we would hear of wars and rumors of wars, but we're not to be troubled. Okay, and the reason why we're not troubled at what we see in the news is because we have this, this understanding of the Bible. As is written, Isaiah 33 and verse 6, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. Okay. Yahweh Shai also said that the end is not yet because, there's still prophecies that need to take place before Judgment Day, before all hell breaks loose on a nuclear level. But nonetheless, it's our job to measure the times, as is written in 2 Ezra 9 and verse 1. And we do that by looking at what's going on in the news and filtering what we see through the scriptures. Okay, so it says this here in the article. The European Union on Wednesday urged citizens across the continent to stockpile food, water, and other essentials to last at least 72 hours as war, cyber attacks, climate change, and disease increase the chances of a crisis. Okay, and again, this crisis could very well be the Black Swan event that brings about the MOTB, or the fulfillment of what the Apostle John saw in his vision, Revelation 13 and 16. And that's the major prophecy that we're looking out for as the Lord's watchmen. Okay, Revelation 13 and 16, which ties in with the hour of temptation, Revelation 3 verse 10. You've also got the time of Jacob's trouble, Jeremiah 30 verse 7, Daniel 12 verse 1, 2 Ezra 15, 2 Ezra 16, where all hell breaks loose in this society. So this is, what we're hoping for, what we're praying for, because the sooner that all hell breaks loose in this society, the closer we are to being delivered, all right? The closer we are to the return of our Lord, Yahweh Shai, with the holy angels and the elect of Israel being delivered. Matthew 24, verse 31. So let's see what's being said here. It says the call to action for the EU's 450 million citizens comes as the 27-nation bloc rethinks its security, especially after the Trump administration warned that Europe must take more responsibility for it. In recent years, the EU has weathered the you-know-what and the threat from Russia, including its attempts to exploit Europe's dependence on its natural gas to weaken support for Ukraine. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has warned that Russia could be capable of launching another attack in Europe by 2030. So, this is what they're planning and preparing for. It says today's threats facing Europe are more complex than ever, and they are all interconnected, said. We just read that. This comes from the Crisis Management Commissioner. Again, her name is Hajar Labib, as she unveiled a new strategy for dealing with future disasters. It says, while the Commission is keen not to be seen as an alarmist, Labib said it's important to make sure people have essential supplies for at least 72 hours in a crisis. She listed food, water, flashlights, because of course, we understand that there could be EMP attacks, that will shut down the grid, causing blackouts. She listed food, water, ID papers, ID papers, as in identification papers, that being your driver's license, your passport, your national insurance card out there in the UK, which we know all of that is going to go digital, which, like I said, what they're planning for, this disaster that they're talking about, could very well be ordo ab chaos, meaning order out of chaos, to bring about what? Their new world order. Okay, the Great Reset, the fourth industrial revolution. And we understand at the helm of their fourth industrial revolution is going to be the implantable microchip, which we understand that's going to be their way to govern the people, to control the people, to enslave the masses of people. All right. And that's what it's all about. Like Aaron Russo told Alex Jones, it's all about total control. So they want to have total control over their subjects by way of the chip, which is the mark of the beast. Okay. She's also listed medicine and shortwave radios as things to stock. So all hell could break loose, real soon out there in Europe, which of course, if it does happen, is going to have, a major effect throughout the globe, not just Europe. It's going to be, it's going to have a global impact, if you will. So, let's see here. It says, the EU's plans are similar to those in France, Finland, and Sweden. Last year, Sweden updated its Cold War era civil emergency advice to better reflect today's security policy reality, such as what to do in case of nuclear attack. Which, by the way, Sweden, out there in Sweden, you've got thousands of people, that already have the chip, okay, that already have the MOTB. So there's a reason why Sweden is being mentioned here. A bigger reason, if you will. Anyway, this is just a brief report, a forecast, if you will, a spiritual forecast concerning what's on the table out there in Europe, which, like I said, if there is a disaster, a major disaster out there in Europe, it's going to have a knock-on effect throughout the world. Okay, so just like Yahushua said, what to watch as well as pray. And what are we watching for? We're watching out for these prophecies. So anyway, I pray and hope that you're edified. And until next time, I'll say Shalom.